Welcome to my channel. In the heart of the whispering woods, where ancient trees held secrets in their gnarled roots, a terrible silence had fallen. The magical creatures of the forest, the glimmerflies, the talking squirrels, and the elusive Fayad all vanished. The source of this calamity was the Shadow Weaver, a sorceress who had stolen the heart of the woods, a crystal that pulsed with all the magic and life of the forest. Without it, the world was slowly turning to gray. The sun hung heavy in the sky, a pale ghost of its former self. The rivers ran sluggish and choked with weeds. Even the wind seemed to have forgotten how to rustle the leaves. The trees stood bare and silent, their branches clawing at the leaden sky. Hope had begun to wither and die, just as the forest was. This strange blight had reached even into the deepest roots of the oldest tree in the forest, the great elder tree, whose roots were said to hold the memory of all seasons past. And there, nestled among the gnarled roots, sat Kale the Trent, his skin like weathered bark, his beard a tangle of moss. For centuries, he had watched over the whispering woods, his heart aching at the sight of the dying forest. He had seen many seasons come and go, and within his ancient heart, he held the memories of every glorious spring, every warm summer, every harvest moon, and every star-filled winter night. Now he felt the forest's pain as his own. The magic that had once danced in the streams, that had sung in the birds and bloomed in the flowers, was fading, leaving behind a hollow echo of its former self. Kale knew he could not bear this sorrow alone. The forest needed help, and the fate of the world hung in the balance. So he reached out with his spirit, sending a silent plea across the barren branches and wilting leaves to the very heart of the Shadow Weaver's domain, hoping against hope that his call would reach the ears of three unlikely heroes whose names were spoken only in whispers: a guardian of the past, a seeker of the present, and a dreamer of the future. And in response to his call, three figures emerged from the depths of the whispering woods. The first was Kale, a wisp of green smoke that coalesced into the form of an ancient Trent. His skin was the color of aged bark, his beard a thick, tangled mass of moss. His eyes were pools of ancient wisdom, reflecting the memories of countless seasons. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. The second was Lyra, a lithe young elf, with hair like spun moonlight, and eyes that shone with the bright curiosity of the stars. She moved with the grace of a forest cat, her every step silent and sure-footed. Her bow was an extension of her arm, her arrows always finding their mark. The third was Finn, a human boy of no more than 12 summers, with a mop of unruly brown hair and eyes that shone with a dreamer's light. He walked with a slight limp, his steps a little slower than the others. In his hands, he clutched a small worn sketchbook filled with fantastical drawings of wondrous creatures and shimmering landscapes. The three heroes stood before the great elder tree, each a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. Kale the Trent, his presence a testament to the resilience of the forest itself. Lyra the elf, her spirit as sharp and unwavering as the blade of her bow. And Finn, the human boy, whose spirit burned with the unwavering flame of hope. Kale, his voice echoing with the wisdom of centuries, spoke first. "You have answered my call, heroes, and for that I am grateful. Come, I will share what burden I can of the forest's sorrow and tell you of the path ahead." He told them of the Shadow Weaver, a sorceress who dwelled in the Shadow Peaks, a jagged range of mountains that clawed at the sky to the north of the forest. She had whiles away the countless years since she was banished from the woods by stealing the very essence of life from the land, trapping the forest's magic in a crystal called the heart of the woods. Without the heart, the forest was dying, and the Shadow Weaver grew stronger with each passing day. Lyra, her gaze as steady as the North Star, spoke next. We must retrieve the heart of the woods and defeat the Shadow Weaver. But how do we even begin such a perilous quest? Kale turned his wise, ancient eyes to Finn, who blushed at the sudden attention. It is said that the path forward is often unclear until one takes the first step, Finn offered, his voice barely a whisper. Perhaps we should start by heading north towards the Shadow Peaks. We don't know how far the Shadow's reach extends, but surely the sooner we confront her, the better. Before either of the older heroes could respond, a playful chirp echoed through the silent woods. From atop a nearby branch, a small bird with wings like stained glass alighted, chirping urgently. The Shadow Weaver has cast a powerful spell of silence upon the land, making it impossible for any creature to speak or sing, except those who possess the purest of hearts or the strongest of wills. The bird cocked its head, regarding Finn for a moment before fluttering back to its perch. The Shadow Weaver knows not of his existence yet, but when she does, she will try to steal his hope. Only you, little one, can keep your dreams and those of the world alive. With that cryptic message delivered, the bird took flight, soaring into the overcast sky. Lyra smiled encouragingly at Finn, who returned the gesture with a determined nod. Taking a deep breath, he opened his sketchbook and began to draw. As he worked, the pages of his book glowed faintly, casting dancing shadows on the ground around him. When he finished, he showed them his drawing, a vision of the forest restored, teeming with life and laughter. "This is what I believe in," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "This is what we are fighting for." Kale, moved by the boy's unwavering spirit, placed a gnarled hand on Finn's shoulder, his touch surprisingly gentle. "Then let us be about our task," he said, his voice resonating with newfound strength. The path to the Shadow Peaks lies through the Wailing Wraiths' territory. They are the ghosts of lost memories and regrets, feeding on the despair of travelers. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the trees grew darker, their branches gnarled and twisted. The air grew cold and damp, and a strange mist began to swirl around their feet. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by mournful cries that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The Wailing Wraiths appeared before them, translucent figures shimmering in the gloom, their forms distorted with sadness and regret. Each wraith represented a fragment of the forest's lost magic, a memory stolen by the Shadow Weaver. The wraiths reached out with cold, ethereal fingers, trying to pull the heroes back into the suffocating darkness. But as they touched the group, they recoiled, shrieking in agony. Kale, recognizing these creatures of lost memories, spoke in a voice that boomed like rolling thunder. "Do not be swayed by what has been lost, but remember what was. That is your strength." His words cut through the haze of despair, reminding them of the vibrant forest that once thrived here. Gathering their strength, the heroes pressed on, the wails of the wraiths growing fainter behind them. Their path led them to a clearing where a thick fog had taken root. The air grew heavy and distorted, and the trees around them seemed to writhe and twist in grotesque parodies of their former selves. The labyrinth of lies, a place where illusions danced and deception lurked around every bend. With a wave of her hand, Lyra dispelled the illusions, revealing the tangled paths that lay before them. "Beware," she said, her voice sharp with caution, "for here, the labyrinth will show you what you most desire in hopes that you will abandon your quest." And indeed, as they ventured deeper into the maze, each hero was confronted by their deepest desires. Kale saw visions of a time when the forest was whole and thriving, and for a moment, he almost gave in to the temptation of remaining there. Lyra was shown an image of a bustling city, a place where she could live a life free from the burdens of the quest. And Finn, he was offered a chance to be anything he wanted. A prince, a warrior, even a god. If only he would give up his pursuit of the heart of the woods. But each hero resisted, their determination to save the forest unwavering. Finally, after what felt like hours, though time had no meaning within the labyrinth, they emerged on the other side, blinking in the sudden brightness. Behind them, the labyrinth shimmered and twisted, hiding its treacherous ways once more. And beyond the maze, stretching grim and gray against the clouded sky, were the shadow peaks, their jagged peaks scraping at the heavens. At their feet, the forest gave way to barren rocks and withered fields, a stark reminder of the Shadow Weaver's growing power. Taking a steadying breath, the heroes adjusted their packs and started their ascent. The climb was long and arduous, the thin air making each step a monumental effort. Yet they pressed on, their determination fueled by the hope of restoring the forest to its former glory. At last, they stood at the summit of the highest peak, the Wind's Teeth, where the air was thin and cold. Before them lay the Shadow Weaver's lair, a dark and twisted castle that seemed to absorb the meager light of the surrounding peaks. All around them, the mountains clawed at the sky, their jagged peaks like the teeth of some monstrous beast. Below them, the world stretched out in shades of gray, a landscape devoid of magic and life. The forest they had left behind was little more than a fading memory. Here, in the Shadow Weaver's domain, hope was a fragile ember threatening to be extinguished by the biting winds of despair. Yet despite the oppressive gloom, a flicker of determination burned in the eyes of each hero. They had come too far to turn back now. And with that, the battle for the fate of the forest and the world began. What will become of Kale, Lyra, and Finn? Will they defeat the Shadow Weaver and restore the forest to its former glory? Or will the Shadow Weaver's darkness consume all? Find out next time. Thanks for watching.